Hello and welcome everyone to the 17th session of Hallo Casa. My name is Michael and today I'll be talking to Margret Holzer de Baez de Punta del Este, Uruguay. Margret is basically German but has lived in, I think, more countries than I count on two hands. Now she's living in Uruguay and is a real estate broker, and I'm super excited to have her here today, and she will talk about her journey to Uruguay and also her services, and also present some listing or one exciting listing. But why should I talk too much? Margret, we are here for you. Why don't you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Margret. I'm a German citizen, but really a citizen of the world, I would say. Have traveled all over the place and have now, or for the past 14 years, called Punta del Este my home. And I run a property company called Uruguay Property Partnership, which is a boutique multilingual property business with 14 years of bespoke real estate experience and a proactive go-ahead vision, if you want, and a profound vocation for client service. We specialize in sales and rentals of beach villas, as well as houses, apartments, country estates, farms, and agricultural land.
Wow, so that means you're first of all you have like 14 years, most probably even more of experience in real estate. That's amazing. You right now you run your business in Uruguay. Tell us a little bit first of all, first before we come to our real estate business right now. Tell us a little bit about your personal story. How did you end up in Uruguay, and also in which countries did you live before?
Well, from Germany, I moved to the United Kingdom, and where I stayed for 17 years in total, basically working in television, but not at the front end or like a presenter, more in investigative journalism, in politics and economics. And later on, I was in a staff member, of a member of the board of a private TV channel. And then I married a diplomat, and we moved around the world, and from Norway, Sweden, Iceland, to Japan, Belgium, Venezuela, and back to Germany. And here I am. I ended up in Uruguay.
Wow, so that's a huge long list of countries in your pocket. Until now, what do you think? What was the most exciting experience and the most exciting time throughout these years traveling around the world?
Well, all countries have been interesting, but I would say the one that really stands out is Japan. We were there in the late 80s when the boom years were taking place, and it is unbelievable. It's one is short for words to describe the idiosyncrasy of the place. It's so different from our culture, and we have to think in Asian philosophy to understand what's really happening there, and it takes many years to even grasp the basics. But they were very exciting times, and I wouldn't want to miss it in my life, the experience, and all the beautiful and wonderful people and exciting people that I've met. And with each and every country, one learns something, which is now to my benefit. And being multilingual, my clients, my real estate clients, actually profit from my vast experience. So I'm very glad to pass it on to them and advise them to the best of my knowledge, so that they feel comfortable and at home when they for instance, decide for the first time to move far away from their usual abode to the usual place of residence.
I love it. I love your statement concerning with each country you gain more and you enrich yourself. I really believe the same, and I think it's awesome the way you just described it. Maybe we can do another session about Japan one day, and we all only go all in on Japan, the culture. So you definitely say that everyone should visit Japan, even now, yeah.
Everyone should visit as many countries in the world as possible to widen one's horizon. We are now a global community, and we shouldn't be so narrow-minded. And the more open we can be to other cultures and people, it's for our personal gain. And when people move to a different country, I highly recommend that they make an effort to at least learn something of the language, because otherwise the experience in the country that those people are living in will only be half as enjoyable as if they were had a comprehensive understanding of the values.
I love it. Perfect. Great. Yeah. True. So now coming to Uruguay a little bit, and talking a little about maybe starting with Punta del Este. Me myself, actually, I traveled once to Punta del Diablo, and I really liked it. But I also heard that Punta del Este is quite different, even though you have like only 5 kilometers of distance or 20 kilometers of distance between each other. But there I already felt like, okay, Uruguay, even though it's not the biggest place on earth, it is super diverse, and you find a lot of different places. So tell us a little bit about what is Punta del Este about, and what does someone find once traveling there?
Okay, perhaps you admit me. May I start with Uruguay in general and then
Absolutely.
focus on Punta del Este? I would say even think of investing here. And it is Uruguay has just been named by the by Mercer. Mercer
Sorry,
is
I think
very
you just broke up. Can you start once again with Uruguay itself? There was just a
yes.
small cut of, I think, 5 seconds. Thank you.
Okay. Why should anyone, say from Europe, the United States, or from far away, look for Uruguay? Well, Uruguay is considered, and that was a recent as a survey, a worldwide survey by a famous company called Mercer. They always evaluate the most livable countries and cities in the world. And Uruguay was named the best country in the whole of South America for different reasons. So I could give, say, 10 reasons of why someone would come here and even invest here. So there is, first of all, the culture is similar. It's a Western culture rather than an Eastern culture. So it has to do with, we don't talk about religion, but a Western sort of, this is here our European kind of background, with most immigration done from Europe about 150 years ago. So this is the most European country you will find in the whole of South America. There's a kind of a quality lifestyle at fairly reasonable prices. The prices used to be lower and really, really cheap, but that was some time ago. But still cheaper than, say, most of Europe or Scandinavia and the UK or the US. It's also an ideal destination during the European winter due to reverse seasons, because we are here on the southern part of the globe. So when you have snow and ice in Europe, you go to the beach here, and Christmas in Uruguay is beach weather. So we have pristine beaches, lakes, unspoiled countryside with first-class golf, riding, tennis, fishing, and organic meat galore. For meat lovers, for carnivores, this is the country to be. There are still very good prices, competitive prices for many chalets and cottages, whether it's a beach house or an apartment with a sea view, all with excellent, with excellent rental potential during the high season. The high season commands very high rental prices. So if some investor decided to buy an apartment, for instance, they could forego it in the high season in January, cash in on a lot of rent and pay the expenses for the rest of the year. That's what many people do. So it's a great investment opportunities also for inexpensive hectares of farmland, forestation. Another important feature is that foreigners and residents can invest freely with secure land registry titles. That's not in all countries secured, but here the legal laws are quite serious and can be relied upon. There's currently still excellent prospect for capital appreciation. They have favorable tax advantages for companies who operate in our free trade zones or in the agricultural business. There are certain tax incentives.
So you do have free trade zones in okay.
Yes. In various parts, that even Indian companies like call centers and pharmaceutical companies, it's just outside of Montevideo. So there's good personal security environment, say from a crime point of view. It's fairly good comparable to Europe. And another important aspect is free repatriation of property profits upon resale. So there's no restrictions on any ownership. A foreigner has the same status as a local resident. And if and when you decide to sell, there are no restrictions. Say some governments say, but you can't export the money has to stay in the country. No. It's all free here. Mm-hmm. So you take your money and go if you wish.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those are all fantastic arguments to invest in and settle or live in Uruguay. Do you also see a difference between the Uruguayan landscape or framework, economy, and also maybe the society, and Argentina and even Brazil? Like, do you think it's better or worse than the surrounding countries?
Yes, I mean the best argument is I think it's better, and the best argument to underline my statement is that enormous amount of Argentines and Brazilians come here or invest here. There's a reason for that. Now, the Argentines, they consider it their backyard. They don't have beautiful beaches as the Uruguayans have. And it is more secure. They had a sort of, for years, and kind of an unstable government. It's better now. But they go to rather always greater economic crisis than Uruguay. Uruguay is more stable. Now, as far as the Brazilians are concerned, they come here because it is safer. There's a lot of crime in Brazil. And here they can still walk around if they wish to with a Rolex on their arm, and they won't get robbed necessarily. That doesn't mean there are no break-ins. I mean, in Europe, anywhere, there are break-ins, occasional break-ins, but if you behave normally, it's not, you can even leave your belongings on the beach, not your fortunes, but you can leave your shoes and everything and go and bathe, and it's perfectly safe. People used to leave their doors open here, not anymore, but it's quite safe. Mm-hmm. I would compare it to Europe.
I mean, I I mean, I only went to Uruguay myself like for 3 days, I think, and but I what I definitely felt was a difference from obviously I was on the beach and I was not in Buenos Aires anymore, Montevideo anymore, but there I already felt like actually it's a little bit like the north of Germany. Like when you're there at the beach, like you have the dunes, and I actually even slept outside, like in the forest there, and I felt
Yes.
totally safe, and walked around freely, and yeah, I can definitely confirm that. However, I also have to say that my reference point is only like 3 days, so I wasn't there for like such a long time.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing you mentioned the north of Germany. Do you know what the Germans say? It's the silt of South America.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the silt of South America, or the
yeah,
Hamptons in the United
yeah,
States, with Millionaire Row. It's the dunes, the beaches are similar, and on the right, say the big villas on the beach, it's very similar to the Hamptons. Say, but here we have a few properties that are multi-million dollars. But in the Hamptons, it's not unusual to find 20, 25 million. But here it's more three or four, a huge estate directly on the
yeah,
beach. But it does happen. And Punta, if I may now come
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
the Leste in particular, Punta del Este is recognized internationally as the prime summer resort of South America. So if you logistically you fly to Montevideo with connections, say from Buenos Aires or from Sao Paulo, Madrid, Frankfurt, the United States, anywhere. Um, so Montevideo is the arrival airport. You could also fly to Punta del Este, which has an international airport, but it's mostly connections from Buenos Aires and from Brazil, rather than from say
yeah,
extra regional. Say from Europe, they don't land in Punta del Este, but in Montevideo. Um, Punta del Este is the denomination Punta del Este nowadays. It's not just like the little peninsula, which was the original Punta del Este, but more or less a stretch of different villages and areas that reach from Solanas and Laguna de Sauce to up to Jose Ignacio. Nowadays it's called Punta del Este, which is an area of about 50 kilometers. But you will hear, when you look in any mobiliarias and you see in any realtor, they always denominate the areas, and there are many areas of where people wish to live or to go on the beach, and say there are beaches for young people with continuum parties. Other beaches are more family orientated, and so on and so forth. There's a beach for every taste. The beaches are free. You don't have to pay entrance, or you can walk anywhere, even in front of luxurious hotel. Not like in the south of France, where you pay entrance, or
hmm,
in Zurich you have to pay a fee, haven't you? Uh, not the case. Not the case here.
hmm. And now thinking about this in fact like hotspot of Latin America and South America, I also then expect that the demand and also the real estate prices over there have skyrocketed within the last decades or years, and are now not even like or hardly affordable for any normal person to invest anything. Or do you still have listings and properties and possibilities for any kind of investor or normal buyer, or someone who's just looking for an apartment to live in?
I do. I do. There's always, there has been a boom. There has been a boom in Uruguay. Say from the boom started around 2005, for I would say the last 10 years, but it has taken its toll in the sense that Uruguay is rather dependent on the majority of the investors come from Argentina and from Brazil. Say about 70% of investors come from those two countries. And they have experienced quite an economic downturn in the past couple of years, and that has affected Uruguay. Not so, sorry, not so my own niche market. I tend to take care more of all kinds of European investors, say extra regional, sort of. When I came here in 2005 and I bought my house, I was not very well taken care of by the local realtors, and I thought, there must be something better. How would I want to be treated? So I rushed home and registered the name uruguayproperty.com, and my company was born. And I thought, okay, I'm going now, I will occupy a niche market and will treat my foreign clients the way I want to be treated when I go abroad and wish to purchase something, especially when it comes to real estate, which is a major investment and needs important decisions. So
that means, walk us maybe through it a little bit throughout your premium service, which you are now offering, because you said, in fact, you felt a pain yourself, and then you were saying, okay, you know what, I actually want to fill in of, I want to make sure that this pain is being resolved, and I will handle it on my own. So now when someone is going to have business with you, and someone is going to buy an apartment with you, what can he or she expect when they invest in a property which is being managed by you?
Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to think that we listen. We listen to what our client wants. We ask questions. We just don't throw properties at them and say, here, look at them, buy them. No. We investigate, what does our client want? What is their lifestyle? Do they have children? Do they need schools? We offer a comprehensive service. Say a German client comes tomorrow, he's fed up with the European winters and other issues of life there, and he wants to overwinter here. A lot of investors from Europe and from far away, they stay at least 6 months of the year when it's very, very pleasant weather here. So I listen to them and I say, okay, do you still have a job? What is your lifestyle, kids, and so on and so forth. Once we narrow that down and I know what they want, I make a list and we go and see properties, and I always ask for a honest feedback. Only then, because the client has to be happy. I don't want to sell any thing that is not suitable to them, because they will be miserable and don't recommend my services. Although if they make the decision to buy something, it's not up to me. But I try to help them as much as I can for them to gain experience of what it is all about to invest here. And so we go and see the properties. They can ask me all kinds of questions. I hold their hand through the whole process of the buying process. And say once they have chosen the property they like, they either have their own professional services, or I can recommend a list of people that I have worked with in the past and that have given me good services at reasonable prices, no cheating. And so I can recommend them lawyers, workmen, notaries, uh, everything,
Everything, yeah.
everything,
You,
everything they need, accountants. I help them opening bank accounts. Uh, and I want to stretch that the people, the investors who buy via Uruguay property, they can rely on me that I offer an after sales service, which means that uh, I I'm there when the little ailments may occur and they don't know to whom to turn to, or
mhm.
they don't yet speak the language and so on. So my after sales service is quite well known and people come back over and over again. So
It's interesting. In fact, you in the very beginning you said you ask questions, and sometimes even negging someone or asking someone like pure in a very pure way some question just doesn't do a lot in the first moment, but then it creates awareness and it really triggers the moment that the other person really has to think about, okay, who am I or what do I want and stuff, and then you actually most probably are resolving the root cause of a lot of problems afterwards.
that's
and
right.
and then on the next step you obviously you accompany the person throughout the buying process, then you have like very strong network locally, and you even say, hey, once there's something, just reach out to me, I'm available. And
Right.
I guess that especially for someone who is investing overseas or somewhere in a different country where they might not speak the language like properly, this is exactly what I guess like international investors are seeking.
Yes. And that is how that niche market I have identified through my own pain when I came here. And I have filled that void. And a lot of my clients are extremely grateful to me, and they have recommended me ever since, or have been loyal to me for 10 years, and so on and so forth. I know the same people I've sold houses to 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still here, or we have become friends, and they still consult me, and it's a community.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
as
And
long as you are straightforward and supply a good service, that's what people want and feel comfortable.
absolutely.
And I tell them the way it is. Not everything is rosy in no country in the world. There are always the pros and cons, and I think the most important is that they have to think outside of the box
Mm-hmm.
and not compare. Oh, but at home it's so much more beautiful. Well, then they should probably never leave. So it's best to be kindly slightly flexible.
Yeah.
People who are determined to wish abroad, they need a certain flexibility. Otherwise, they will not be happy.
Do you
And if
have? Sorry, go ahead.
yes, no,
Uh,
and if they aim to speak the language, well, they've got it made. They've got it made.
do you have any, let's say, negative examples of someone, and do you also kind of see a certain pattern of people where you say, okay, I actually already have like kind of a red flag with this person or this couple or this family because of XYZ reasons? Do you see some requirements or prerequisites which definitely someone who says, okay, I want to invest, I want to move to a different country, to even a different continent, what do you think are some certain elements which someone or everyone should bring with them?
They should have a very clear objective
Mm-hmm.
of what they want. So, say the typical investor is probably a couple 50 years old. They are still too young to retire. They wish to, some would search for another job. Now, jobs here, this is a small country, and jobs are not plentiful,
Mm-hmm.
especially not for foreigners. So, what a lot of people do and are successful I've had clients, U.S. clients, scientists who bought several houses through me, and she worked. She's a medical science, and she worked for a pharmaceutical company as a consultant, and she could do all her work online. Say, Uruguay has fiber optic cables all over the place, very fast internet. So there's no problem at all. If you have any job, any investor who comes here and can do his job online, paradise.
Interesting, especially if you live I think you're in the same time zone as the Eastern Standard Time, or you're 2 hours behind or in front.
We are now 4 hours behind Europe.
4 hours behind Europe, so that means 2 hours before Eastern Standard Time. Okay, before New York. Okay, gotcha. And
so, yeah,
and you mentioned that, you know, like there are some digital nomads, or however you want to call them, some people working remotely from Uruguay doing the same job. This triggers one question. I also think about who are the types of the investors. Are those for looking just for a return on investment? Do they really live in the city? Because I think it's sometimes a little bit sad when like people are just going to the country and just want to buy and make money, and then just not even interested in the country itself and the culture. So are those also people who live then there and contribute in a certain way and positively to the local society?
Yes. I mean, there are several types of investors. The ones who come here, talking from my own experience and the clients I've had, the majority of investors come here and look for a different lifestyle, or at least 6 months of the year. And they have lived in big cities, in New York, in Montana, in Aspen, Colorado, Los Angeles, I don't know, from Miami. I've had them Canadians who works in the oil industry. I even had Asians, Koreans, from all over the place. But in general, so the majority of the investors here, or at least the clients, the international clients, the Argentines come and buy their holiday home, and they always come during the whole of the year because it's round the corner. They just hop on the ferry and come here and whenever they please. But when you come from further away, say the United States, Canada, and Europe, it's a different kettle of fish. So it's a 10, 11 hours flight, and you don't want to come for 1 or 2 weeks like you would go to the Costa del Sol or somewhere in Italy. So you have to think in different terms. So the typical investor is someone who has maybe an apartment in Berlin or in London or in Paris, and they want some greenery and buy a chakra, which is a country home, and they create a organic garden, which is very popular, and you can make money on that one. So they have land, they have peace, they have greenery, they have clean air, they have lots of water resources, and so on and so forth. So different lifestyle require different investments. But or there's another one who have a big house in somewhere in Europe, but they don't want here a big house, they want an apartment, they come and go. I have clients who are doctors, and they come and love playing golf. We have within 40 kilometers 3 major golf courses here. And they usually come twice a year and stay each time 6 to 8 weeks. And I rented in January, and most of their costs are covered. So that type of deal.
You just gave us some touch points concerning Punta del Este and also what it is about. I know I asked before already, give us an overview about that, but I also just realized that we actually skipped a lot about it. So Punta del Este, how can I imagine that? Is it very touristy, or is it also, does it have like a normal city center? I assume, obviously. And how are people living, or most of the people are living there? Is it apartment buildings? Is it cottages? Is it entire houses? And then also, interestingly, you just mentioned the golf course. What are activities someone can do around Punta del Este? What does it have for offerings?
Okay. I would say Punta del Este has a lot of apartments, but it's divided 50-50 almost. Although when you see the high-rise towers, it appears some stretches of Punta del Este appear a bit like Miami of the 80s,
Okay.
but you have a lot of areas which is very, very green, and only houses only, no high-rise buildings. The high-rise buildings are only on a small stretch of beach, where it is by the rules and regulations where they can build high. High-rise means 22 floors. So you have, and that mainly appeals, the apartments mainly appeals to Argentines and Brazilians, whereas Europeans and the extra regional people, the US folks and Canadians and so on, they all go for houses. So
Okay.
I would say it's probably equally divided. And I can give you a rundown, but we would talk until tomorrow morning. I can give you a rundown on what each area, the particularities of each area, but there are around. Punta del Este is a stretch of beach. You need a car when you come here, because it's sort of very wide ranging, from Solanas, which is towards Montevideo, to Jose Ignacio. All of that stretch is about 50 kilometers. So you have on the beach, you have houses on the beach, and you have apartments on the beach, or with a view towards the beach. And you go across the road and you are on sandy beaches.
Okay.
And now, sports-wise, there are lots of sports. There's a great diversity of offers for all tastes, as well as the natural beauty that surrounds the peninsula, which makes Punta del Este a truly unique place. The sports most practiced are surfing, kitesurf, yachting, sailing, fishing, polo, golf, tennis, and rugby.
Okay. Sounds very good. Sounds very exciting.
Plenty of restaurants, pubs, antique shops, fashion stores, a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But everything is on a small scale. If you think the whole of Uruguay is 176,000 square kilometers, which is roughly half the size of Germany, if that means anything to our listeners. But in that 176,000 square kilometers, only 3.4 million people live. There are more sheep and cows than people. So it's scarcely populated, and that's why you have plenty of green and nature.
What about now some areas, or some interesting areas, neighborhoods in Punta del Este you think maybe upcoming, maybe right now not, a little bit off the beaten track, and what would you recommend someone if they say, okay, actually I want to have something which has still room for appreciation?
Well, room for appreciation, it's all relative. Now, I would say some apartments have room for appreciation, but where the real money is pieces of land, or by agricultural land or something. And but then again, if you buy land, you can't use it yourself. It's there, and you forget about it, put it in a drawer, and in 10 years, dig it out and say, oh, right, what is it worth now? Do I make a profit?
Yeah, gotcha.
But
Or you build a project on it, or you do a construction project on it. Okay, and that, I assume, that's then also outside of Punta del Este. That's like you really have to go far.
well, there are some pieces of land where you can make money,
Mm-hmm.
like in popular beach areas.
Mm-hmm.
If you say there could be a speculation when the government changes the ordinance of a place, where before you could only build a small house, and if the land and if 2 or 3 pieces of land are pulled together, you can put a building there of stories, and then you can make real good money. But that is a sort of on a point of view with an investor's mind and patience.
Yeah.
Whereas mostly people come and want to spend 6 months of the year here, and then they either buy a house where they have a garden and a pool and so on, or don't want to have the hassle with the houses and so on and buy the apartment, but the apartment have a different cost analysis in comparison to houses.
How about the taxes? You in the very beginning you said taxes are very affordable, and also it's actually very good, it's a bargain to invest or to have real estate. Is there any yearly tax on the asset, on the property, or and also maybe the transaction costs? How about the transaction or the tax on the transaction?
Okay. For the purchaser, now a purchaser has to, the minimum he has to engage is basically a realtor and a notary, because the realtor, if he's a good realtor, takes really good care of the investor and holds their hand through the whole process. The commission for realtor is basically 4%, but if you take off all the admin and the taxes, it's 3%. Say in Uruguay, each party, the buyer and the seller, pay 3% commission.
And that's obligatory. It's obligatory to have a realtor.
No, but it's recommendable, especially when you don't know the rules and regulations.
No, absolutely. I just want to make sure that I understand that correctly. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And when you engage a realtor, and you then there are certain obligations. Say the realtor would have you sign the visits of each property, and then if you buy that property, you need to pay the realtor the commission. And it's a 3% plus the value added tax, plus the buyer and seller share what they call the property transfer tax, which is a percentage of the cataster value. It's very technical speaking, but to make a long story short, it's probably the notary charges the same fees than the immobiliaria, plus the other taxes and bits and bobs. So any buyer buying any property in Uruguay has about roughly 9% of buying costs altogether.
Okay, gotcha. And
taxes, notary and immobiliaria.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. And I think what you're referring to with the cataster value is more or less like the book value according to the local cataster. And then based on that, they are determining. You have the tax percentage, and then they determine the absolute tax amount. I assume it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same.
Yes,
as in Colombia. Okay.
And the book value is roughly half of the commercial value.
Yeah, okay, because they're not updating it, and the market value is increasing. Much faster than the book value.
And regarding, and then it depends on what the investor buys. whether it's an apartment or a house or a piece of land or agricultural land, because different commodity, different
Type, yeah.
cities require different taxes.
Okay.
So with agricultural land, there is a huge catalog of exemptions because the government wants to promote these investments, but it's for large holdings, for large investors. If you buy an apartment, you have the running costs of the building, so which is divided between the copropietarios, which is the co-owners, according to the square meters assigned to you. You pay the current charges. These are monthly charges. It all depends of what services a building.
Okay.
That's how the charges are calculated.
Yeah.
And regarding the government taxes, it's for either apartment or house. It's the property taxes per year. Like the average house pays, say, with an average house, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house near beach in a fairly good area pays around, I would say, $2,500 tax a year.
Okay. Okay, so that would be in let's say, what is it worth? Such an apartment you just described, 100,000. So like 2.5% yearly tax rate.
No. I mean, it could be anything. I'm just saying,
because
a house worth $400,000 or something, and then it also depends whether it was recently modernized, because the tax bracket will change. It's all technical, but it basically roughly between $2,000 and $3,000 a year in taxes.
Okay, good.
Is a good average.
Okay. Before now, combining a lot of things, you also, what still is in my mind, that you said like the percentage of the population with relation to the humongous space you have in Uruguay. It's like in Canada or it's in Australia.
Yes.
Along that, because last week I was talking to Jaime from Ecuador, and he said, okay, you have in Ecuador like a lot of incentive for people who just retired. Do you also have like other government incentives to say, okay, we would like to have like, I don't know, young people or people, young families coming to Uruguay because we want to increase the population? Are there any incentives going on to bring new workforce, highly educated people to Uruguay?
No.
Okay.
Not really. The incentive is for large investors who or invest in like forestry or agricultural land, but we're talking about from 1,000 hectare upwards, or 10,000.
So it's rather corporate companies. Okay, gotcha. And that's interesting. I mean, because in fact, like a lot of, you have like a country with a lot of resources, and you just would need like highly educated people to populate that. No.
That's right. Yeah. And like as Uruguay has good infrastructure, good roads, and very fast internet, and Uruguay is quite, say, IT engineers would do very well here.
Yeah.
Because quite a few Uruguayan IT engineers, there's a Microsoft office here, and they develop software for Microsoft and quite a few other things, or startups. That kind of scene would work here if people decide to come.
It definitely sounds like lifestyle with the good infrastructure, safety, and then in fact a very good geographical location from the time zone.
That's right.
In the beginning, you also said that people come and live in Uruguay for 6 months. Do you have once you have a property, once you're a property owner, do you also get a longer term visa than a normal tourist visa? And if so, is there a certain threshold on which, like a certain amount you have to pay, or down pay at least, in order to obtain that?
Well, there's a process now. Any investor can apply for a cedula, like it's a personal ID card, um, and the process takes about a year or so. Now, if you come and buy a property, you can go in and out, and you would have to go out of the country every 3 months in order to do your visa. But you don't need to be a resident, really. If you stay 6 months, you go out, you go shopping to Buenos Aires,
And then, yeah, okay.
and you have another stamp in the passport for another 3 months. But the ones who like me, who work here and pay the taxes and so on, and the one who like to stay longer, they usually apply for a local ID card, which doesn't mean you can have your passport wherever you come from, but you have a local ID card because you need to identify yourself rather often, and it's quite bothersome to carry your passport along all the time.
Yeah, makes total sense. How about along the ID card? I have one question concerning the health system and insurance system. I remember that from Colombia was perfectly functioning, and it was amazing to see how easy it was to have like a normal medical checkup just with my cedula. Does it also work like that in Uruguay? I assume like the healthcare system is as well like very well functional.
It functions very well, and it's rather competitively priced. Now there is the public sector health, which is free, but it lacks facility. I mean, I've been to hospitals and also visited foreigners or client people who happened to be in a public hospital, and it was okay. But most foreigners who invest in a property here, they would purchase private health insurance, which is competitively priced, and costs around for VIP service $150 a month. Depends on age.
Yeah. Okay. But it definitely is accessible for also foreigners.
Definitely.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
You have now ramping up a little bit and talking maybe also about one of your listings. You could maybe show us or present by describing one listing you have in mind on your portfolio right now to our listeners.
Okay. There are quite a few. Let me think. Okay, there's, for instance, for someone who doesn't want a house, maybe I can, if you allow me, I can give you an apartment and a house.
Absolutely, perfect.
So it and maybe also price-wise that compare, and so the people get an idea. So there's, for instance, a modern glass building, which is a very good service in the building with 24-hour security. You have a garage, you have daily cleaning service, and it's on a small lake with a view on the sea, and you get fantastic sunsets. It's right on the beach, you get beach service, and it is not in the center of Punta del Este, but about 7 minutes drive. But you can see the yacht harbor from far away, type of thing.
Wow.
It's all because it's a winding coastline, and you can oversee the whole coast up to the yacht harbor. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a terrace with a barbecue, because the people here, everybody barbecues and makes a grill fest. And it's about 130 square meters. and I have it for sale at $460,000.
Wow.
Which is a good price.
Mm-hmm.
It is very, very beautifully furnished, modern, and impeccable, and you can come with your toothbrush and start living. And it has a gym, it has an indoor pool, it has an outdoor pool, and so on. So all the facilities, even for children, a little children playroom and so on, and a party room.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a typical building, a 4-story modern building. If you wish, I can send you the link on our interview and so on, and then
absolutely, definitely.
I can whilst I talk, I will look for it and then send you
That's
the
fine. Perfect.
copy, and that's it. And then there is a house not too far away, but not directly on the beach like this building. It's about 300 meters from the beach, perhaps. And it has, again, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, living, modern kitchen, dining, a big patio. It has a closed garage and parking for 2 more cars. It has a beautiful sunlit garden, also lit at night. It's all fenced in, so for security. It has a roofed pool and a big barbecue area, and it has shady places and sunny places.
Mm-hmm.
That's 460.
Mm-hmm.
So
kind of similar price range over there. Okay.
Similar price range, but
totally different from the offering. Yeah.
Totally different.
How about do you have clients who also obtained a local loan?
Yeah, that's complicated. I mean, yes, you could, but you have to have a job. You have to prove income.
Okay, so how do most of the investors do that with the money transfer? Like you do the money the money wire to a fiduciary, or how does that work?
Well, normally, say you decided to purchase something,
Mm-hmm.
and then the buyer usually appoints the notary of
Mm-hmm.
their choice.
Mm-hmm.
They either have their own, and if they don't know anybody, they can ask me, and I can recommend someone who's very serious and reliable and
Mm-hmm.
with a good reputation. Now, that notary works exclusively for the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say a notary, say the buyer now makes up his mind and makes an offer, say for this house of 450, and at the time of signing the pre-sales agreement,
Mm-hmm.
which lays down the condition of the sale,
Mm-hmm.
they pay 10%. They
Mm-hmm.
put down a 10% deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is usually, say, nobody runs around, foreigners don't run around with $45,000
Mm-hmm.
in their pocket, or,
Mm-hmm.
but they have like 10 days to transfer from their bank to the bank of their notary.
Mm-hmm.
The notary, in a fiduciary way, is the keeper of the funds.
Mm-hmm.
And the funds is then both parties sign the contract, and the buyer, unless something dramatic happens, if he withdraws he changes his mind,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't want to purchase that house any longer, he has to have a very good reason. Otherwise, he lose that 10%.
Yeah, it's like a penalty clause as well. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's a penalty clause, exactly.
Okay.
But if everything goes okay and the title deeds are all right, and the final signature after all the investigations, and there is no debt on the property, and all the title is in order and all that, about 6 weeks to 2 months later, he transfers the rest, the 90% plus the costs for the notary and for the immobiliaria and the taxes. He did the additional famous 9%,
Yeah.
and then that's it. And he gets the key, and that's
Perfect.
it.
Okay, great. And this can even last. You said 3 to 6 or 6 to 8 months. This is
No,
okay.
weeks.
Weeks. Okay, okay. Good that I asked that. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. I think Margret. I think it has been a pleasure. It has been a great interview. We got a lot of information from you. We know that first of all, we learned that everyone has to travel as much as possible and has to get to know as many countries as possible and speak the local language. Second of all, we learned that before everyone should or before someone buys a house or buys especially somewhere outside of the home country or even in a different continent, they should be aware of what they're really looking for. Then definitely work with someone reliable who is also listening to the potential investor and the buyer. We learned that Uruguay is an amazing country, very, very diverse, the hotspot of Latin America along Punta del Este with great beaches and still very, very nice opportunities to invest. A lot of people moving there, living even remotely. And you showed us also some great, or you explained us great listings, as well as gave us a lot of technical details as per how to buy, when to buy, and some processes. I thank you so much for your time. I think it was a great interview, and I hope we will talk soon with each other.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and to all the investors out there, do call me, and I'm here to advise you. And don't be shy, be courageous, and look for new pastures. Other countries are also beautiful. Not only your own country where you have been living. There is something to look forward to in each and every country, and we always try to show you the good and tell you also about the bad sides. So there is no surprises or very few surprises. And so we make sure that you will be happy and have a good investment and make friends.
Perfect. Great. That's the best final words. Thank you so much, Margret, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.